Dallas, what did you think about what you watched tonight?
Uh, yeah, this was the performance I was expecting from the Thunder, if I'm being honest. It's easy to get caught up in what the Pacers did in game one, and it's not like they didn't deserve it. They took that game from OKC, but the Thunder have shown, not just in the playoffs where they're 5-0, coming off losses, but in the regular season. When you go 68 and 14 in the regular season, there's not many times where you go on a losing streak where you could lose back-to-back games or 2 and 3 games. That's just not the team the Thunder's been really this entire season. So I expected them to handle business. And even with that being said, it felt like the Pacers had opportunities really at the, kind of halfway point in the second quarter. They cut to like 13 or so. And I'm like, okay, this could be it. But then the Thunder just did what they did consistently all night, was just being able to answer every single run the Pacers were able to get to. And really the biggest takeaway I had from Indiana was just the lack of self-creation definitely can show. I think when you see Halliburton struggle as much as he did throughout those first 3 quarters, 5 points going into the fourth, he was really not able to create advantages. And I feel like that showed pretty early on this game. And what Halliburton was able to do in the fourth quarter of game one is he was being aggressive, right? He was being able to hit floaters. He was hitting threes. We didn't see that really at all from him here in this game. So Thunder did what I thought they were going to do. Got huge contributors off the bench. Aaron Wiggins, Alex Caruso were amazing. Hartenstein, we saw more of the double big lineup. I feel like that was a huge positive for the Thunder. And this Shai game is exactly what we were talking about in game one. It's like, this is what you can't have happen. Shai can't have 34 on 20 shots, get to the free throw line 12 times. You can't have that level of Shai, because in game one, although he had 38, he only has, 34, 36 tonight. It was a lot more difficult for him. And since he was taking so many shots in game one, it was harder for some of the other guys involved to get going. You saw Chet in this game, that first half, come out, looked like a completely different player from game one, right? J-Dub didn't have as great of a game or a bounce back, but still better than game one. So the others were able to get involved. But overall, Thunder took care of business. I think they had to. Can't go down 0-2. But the Pacers still got fight in them.
The Thunder have been the best team when bouncing back from a loss in these NBA playoffs. They are undefeated. They are plus 98 after a loss in the NBA playoffs. And what SGA is doing right now is historic. First two NBA Finals games, he has 72 points. That's the most points by a player in their first two NBA Finals game of anybody in NBA history. The record before was Allen Iverson in 2001 when he had 71 points. SGA beat that by 1 point. Game one, he had 38 points. And then in game two, he has 34 points, but also 8 assists. Compared to game one, where he had 3 assists, he was dictating the game, much more patient on offense, making the correct passes, and he was being rewarded because OKC hit shots. OKC is the first team since the 2019 Raptors to have 5 players score 15 plus points in a game. J Dub played really well, although not the most efficient. I thought J Dub played a solid game today. Shai was incredible. Chet was awesome in the first quarter. And then Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins, the sparks that both of them provided. Aaron Wiggins had 5 threes. Caruso might have hit 3 or 4 threes, plus what he did in transition and on defense. This is one of the most well-balanced, put together teams in NBA history. And it's also being led by one of the most gifted scorers that this league has ever seen in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And we saw him dominate. And then the team also dominated on both ends as well.
No, W Glaze, and I mean that sincerely. Like, you really know how to. I don't want to use the word manipulate because that sounds negative, and I'm not trying to be negative here because there's nothing that we should be talking negative when it comes to Oklahoma City. Shai was unbelievable today. I love what I saw from Chet early on in the game. I wish we would have seen that level of aggressiveness continue throughout the entirety of the game. Nevertheless, we talked about it. It was a team effort, a great team effort by them. And Tyrese Halliburton didn't look comfortable. It got to a point where he had, in a point in the game, he had 4 assists, 5 turnovers. That's just not the Tyrese Halliburton that we know and who we've been accustomed to this playoffs. And of course, basically the entirety of his career. The claim to fame for Tyrese is how well he's been able to take care of the ball. And in these first 2 games, Oklahoma still has done an amazing job of being themselves, going out there and making the opposing team uncomfortable, forcing turnovers, getting points off of those turnovers. They did a great job of making Tyrese extremely uncomfortable in this game. Second half, he had a little bit of a run going. The Pacers as a whole had a little bit of a run going, got it to within 14, if I'm not mistaken, at one point. But Oklahoma just did a great job of just weathering the storm and just continuing to play strong basketball. And again, a lot of that goes to the role players that came off the bench and gave them a great spark throughout this game. A great team W from Oklahoma City, and Shai continuing his level of dominance. And I think that, of course, we talk about the Pacers after game one, and rightfully so. They were able to steal a game they shouldn't have. But I thought Shai was pretty damn good in that game too. And a lot of people were discrediting him because of the amount of shots that he took and how many shots it took for him to get to the points that he had. It was a clean game by the Pacers defensively. And this one, it wasn't that much. And of course, we saw what SGA was able to do in terms of getting to the free throw line and, of course, making his will felt. I thought it was a great performance by OKC, and I'm excited for 3 days down the line to watch Game 3.
Yeah, it does feel like, as we predicted, OKC still has more answers for the Pacers than vice versa. Where, like, even going forward into games 2 and game 3, it still feels like this is easier for OKC to repeat than what the Pacers do. And to be fair, the Pacers have done it, throughout these playoffs, making these insane comebacks. But the Thunder and what they're able to do on both sides of the ball, and what really scares me the most is just, can the Pacers actually run consistent offense in the half court against the Thunder? Is Halliburton going to be able to create enough advantages? Same with Pascal Siakam. Are they going to be able to consistently break down the Thunder when they absolutely have to? We saw it at times during game 1, but I thought more than anything, the Thunder kind of let that slip through their thumbs, right? Like, that was a game you have to have. That's really uncharacteristic of the Thunder, as we've seen all season long. So I still think the Thunder, what they're able to do, they're able to repeat, is just more likely going forward. With that being said, Indiana and their home court's been crazy this year, and they feed off that energy. And Tyrese, if he's going to have one of those games, it's going to be on his home court, because we really didn't get one within these first 2 games here. I mean, he ended with 17 tonight, but it was 14 in game 1, and this was a fake 17. Like, reality, it feels like he's averaging 10 points a game in these finals. So he needs to really set tone next game, be aggressive. Even if you're missing some of those shots, you need to be a threat on offense before the Thunder really make it easy to guard you.
In order for this to be a series, the Pacers needed to steal one on the road. They did that. And now they're going back home with a 1-1 lead. And now you're hoping to split again at home against a team as good as OKC. So I think the Pacers have done their job in just winning a game. But how it's been done, it is a bit alarming, because Halliburton, game 1, for the majority of the game, he was kind of silent. The game winner was an awesome all-time moment, and that kind of removed everything he did beforehand. But that was a solid game. And then this game, he has 17 points, but really before garbage time, he scored 12 in the fourth quarter. And I thought that they did a lot of good things off the ball to get him going off of dribble handoffs and not having him on the ball so much, so he wasn't getting pressured the entire way. And that freed him up, and it freed up more driving lanes. So I think that's something that they'll try to deploy moving forward in game 3. But for the most part, Halliburton was very quiet. Siakam really hasn't had last game. He had 19 and 10. This game, 15 points, 3 for 11. He didn't play well at all. He's shooting very inefficiently. And that's with OKC playing a very small lineup in the starting lineup. But there's no disadvantages. Even somebody like Cason Wallace, who is 6'4", who should be a disadvantage on Pascal Siakam, he's just able to play the ball so well and play so physical that he's able to keep Siakam off his spots. I think that the Pacers' real issue is their lack of paint touches. Halliburton in game 1 had 8 drives. He had 0 paint touches. They overall as a team had more paint touches than OKC in game 1. But in game 2, OKC did a much better job at walling off the paint and drives. And that's why most of Halliburton's passes are on the pick and pop to the 3-point line, or he's dribbling the ball back, or he's jumping in the air and making a cross court pass to the corner. Those are the passes that OKC is willing to live with, because those passes that have to travel further, OKC is betting on the length and the speed that their guys have to consistently close out on defense. So that's why they're giving that up. But Halliburton is unable to touch the paint. I don't think there was a moment in this game where he got to the paint and was
It's hard to
able
get by guys. You can't get by guys.
You can't, exactly. And that's the thing that OKC is so good at, is that they're able to wall you off. And This was the same thing in game one. Pacers just shot, what was it, 47% from three, but a lot of their shots are deep threes, outside shots, because they cannot get deeper into the paint in the
Yeah,
half court.
yeah.
And game two was an example of those shots not going in, and also them not getting easy buckets and consistently collapsing a defense because OKC is just that good.
Yeah, it's tough for them to break down the defense. It's tough for Halliburton to get by anybody guarding one-on-one. Siakam is obviously someone that can use finesse, can use strength, a little bit of both, but not someone that's, creating, really initiating, creating offense consistently for you. Like, he's going to be doing it. But ideally, it's Halliburton, the one creating most of those advantages because of how special he is as a creator and as a passer. And then beyond that, Nembhard, we definitely see moments where Nembhard can take over. But again, you're asking him to really level up here against the best defense in basketball. So it feels like everyone's just a step behind. Where, like, I don't think Halliburton is as good as a scorer to be a number one against this OKC defense. I don't know if Siakam is as good enough as a number two in terms of creating for others. I don't know if Nembhard is good enough to be a number three against this level of defense. It's really credit to the Thunder because, like you said, there's nobody that can that you can really create an advantage on. But it's also like the Pacers, this was still a team that's, I think, coming into its own, right? Like, it's still a team that is probably bar for bar not on the Thunder's level right now. It's 1-1, and I know we're glazing the Thunder a ton, and the Pacers can make us look stupid. But this is how I felt kind of coming into the series. And through two games, I haven't really seen anything that makes me think otherwise.
John
What up,
Tortorelli
Johnny
is
boy?
here.
Hello, gentlemen.
John,
Great to see you guys. I have been listening the entire time, so I've been able to kind of articulate some thoughts. And I do agree with you guys, of course, in the sense that Oklahoma City's defense is such a strong unit at preventing you from getting good and really getting to the rim and getting touches in the paint. And I feel like for Indiana, it's going to come down to in game three, Rick Carlisle finding ways to manufacture paint touches. And the second half of this game, we saw a little bit of that where Halliburton has 3 points in the first half. You're waiting for him to give you something. And game 1-2 was a quiet one. It just turned out he had the biggest shot of the game to decide it. And you saw Indiana starting to get some actions on the side of the court, whether it's going to be a handoff, gain him attack downhill, something simple, whether it's opening the floater, a jump pass, and it's getting him to attack some drop coverage, especially when Isaiah Hartenstein's in the game. If Indiana can do more of that earlier in game one, it's going to open up the floor for them. And I feel like you guys highlighted a bit, Halliburton's not someone who's going to break down the premier point of attack defenders that Oklahoma City has to offer. But if you're able to kind of use screens, gain them on the side of the floor, and opening up the space, I think they could find some ways to attack this Oklahoma State defense and get better quality looks, because that's what it's going to come down to if they want to win this series and build off of game one where it was an Obi Toppin masterclass. He was able to keep it within striking distance. They did not get that today. Now, on the other side of things, Oklahoma State's bench was able to really pick up the slack.
And I'm not going to say that the Pacers shot terrible. It's just they didn't shoot the crazy clip that they shot in game one. 35% from three is okay. But like we all are going to talk about, when you're Tyrese Halliburton, and not that you are bad necessarily at one-on-one and trying to attack in that regard, but it's obviously not your biggest strength. We know his biggest strength is obviously playmaking. We understand that it's the Indiana Pacers strength as a whole to get out and run. The issue is you're going up against the most versatile defense in the NBA. And the way that Lou Dort played today, simply, he was one of the MVPs today as well. His defense on Tyrese Halliburton was excellent, almost start to finish. In the fourth quarter, the game was really over. But Tyrese Halliburton, again, for the majority, he really struggled to really leave his mark on this game early on. But I agree with you also when you talk about Pascal Siakam not having the best game. I think that when you throw the double big lineup in that mix as well, and you really try to clog up the paint, you really make it difficult for them to dribble, drive, and kick. It really becomes difficult for Indiana. But again, we've seen them in a lot of these situations in the playoffs look like, oh, teams haven't figured out, they have another answer. So I'm interested to see how Carlisle draws up a game plan for game three. How are they going to work on trying to space out the floor a little better? Or how are they going to try to work on getting downhill and getting to the basket and have more efficient looks in that regard as well?
I think we're on the verge of seeing an all-time scoring series from Shai. He's averaging 36, 5, and 5 through 2 games with 3.5 steals on 60% true shooting. Indiana has no answer for him. I think it's inevitable that we're going to get at least one 40-point game from him in this series. I think he could finish off this series averaging 35 plus points. And I think we're on the verge of witnessing an all-time great offensive performance from him consistently. We've gotten it already for 2 games. Game 1, he might have missed the last shot, but he had 38 points, and he was by far OKC's most impactful offensive player. Everybody else didn't have it going. I think that overall, this game was a masterclass. This was an A+, A++.
Absolutely.
Game 1 was also a very solid debut finals game, though.
And it felt like despite him having 38 points in game one, that relative today was not the same. Whereas, especially when he was able to kind of snake the pick and roll high up, and then he's immediately going to have a 2-on-1 situation, he was making the right reads consistently. Defensively, wasn't his best showing in game one. Today, he was way better. But when you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander consistently being you in pick and roll, and then making the right read again, while giving you an uber efficient 34 points, that's where it's a completely different ball game. And tonight, that set the tone. I mean, it felt like Indiana, they're maybe having to change a little bit the way that they're defending the pick and roll. Maybe they're going under a little bit more, but they're meeting him high up at the top of the screen. And then from there, he's able to really manipulate that. And if he's giving you an A+ or an A level game as a playmaker, this team becomes way harder to beat.